Welcome back. I'm Bruce Flanders, and from ice racing, it's time to turn our attention to hill climbing. Part of Americana since the early 1900s, modern-day hill climbing has not changed much from the early days of the sport. The premise is still the same. Get up the mountain quicker than your rival. With the help of one of today's living legends, let's take a look at the present-day hill climbing motorcycle. 54-year-old Earl Bowlby is a 9-time national hill climb champion. Who better to tell us about this grassroots American pastime? A motorcycle shop owner in his hometown of Logan, Ohio, Bowlby has ridden BSAs exclusively for over 2 decades.
I like a motorcycle to be simple and nothing on it that's not necessary. Some of these exotic motorcycles, when they're running right, there's no question they're the fastest thing on the hill today. But mine's more consistent. Mine's more likely to run every week.
Running nitromethane fuel and using only a high-gear transmission, the hill climb machine is a rare breed among the motorcycle racing family.
Well, I think the first thing they look at is probably the long swing arm it has. It's probably 2 feet longer than a stock motorcycle. And then they look at the chain across the rear tire for traction. And there's many other things different on a hill climber, too. You've got a high-performance engine. You're burning nitromethane instead of gasoline in the motor. And the rear suspension is a little bit like a motocross motorcycle today. Maybe not quite that much.
As you can probably tell by now, there are no full-fledged factory efforts in hill climbing. There is some minor assistance in the form of parts and information, but there are no factory vans with lucrative sponsor decorations. Simply stated, to be a hill climbing champ, you not only have to be a good rider, but usually a good wrench as well.
I usually run about the same thing year-round, except for the gear ratios. Different hills, you need to have different speeds, different acceleration. So I change the rear sprocket on the rear wheel from time to time.
In his 22-year hill climbing career, Earl Bowlby has learned all the nuances of life as a hill climb champ. As an independent competitor, that not only includes the prerequisites of riding and wrenching, but managing finances as well.
I suppose the biggest single expense is all your travel time, because we drive thousands of miles per year to a hill climb. And our nitromethane costs us somewhere between $30 and $40 per gallon. And we may go through 10 to 20 gallons per year. And the other thing would be the maintenance on the motorcycle. What did you damage today? Did you wreck it? Did you blow up the motor? You may have a lucky year and you may only spend a few $1,000s in total expenses.
Earl Bowlby, 54 years young and still a top competitor in the fast and furious world of hill climbing. That interview was taped prior to the final round of the 1988 National Hill Climb Championships. Earl Bowlby and his fellow competitors had gathered for one of motorcycle racing's classic meetings, the 40th annual Devil's Staircase Professional Hill Climb. We'll have the story of that dramatic event when we return.
There's more Best of American Motorcycle Racing on ESPN coming up after these short messages.
October mornings in Ohio are picturesque and quite chilly. The town of Oregonia, between Dayton and Cincinnati, is typical of the area. Main Street consists of the post office and a combination filling station and food market. However, every fall, this quaint village is the meeting place for hundreds of motorcycle racing fans. They come from all over Ohio, as well as neighboring states. The attraction? This 450-foot hill known as the Devil's Staircase, and the competitors who will try to tame it. Hill climb competitors come here for one last chance to put their stamp on the AMA National Hill Climb Championships. On this final day of the 1988 hill climb season, both the 540cc and the 800cc National Hill Climb titles were still up for grabs. Electronic sensors at the top and bottom of the hill compute and document each rider's time. Riders' performances are announced almost immediately after each run.
The scoring on the hill climb, or the finish positions, result in the fastest times up the hill. Each rider gets 2 opportunities at the hill. If his first round is the fastest, he need not take his second run, but that doesn't very often happen. A run can also be decided on a rider's footage up the hill, but usually with the quality of the riders we have anymore and the horsepower and the bikes that they have, why, it's a matter of the fastest time over the hill as opposed to footage.
Some hill climbs use the footage method to determine the day's winners. For some riders at Oregonia, that could have been disastrous. Number 20, Baltimore's Harry Shriver, was one rider who had problems on this day, from aborted runs to difficulties after he crossed the finish line sensor. When the dust cleared, Shriver walked away unharmed. Others, like former champ Jim Clark out of Laurelville, Ohio, weren't so lucky. Clark comes down hard at the three-quarter mark, and although he finishes the run, wraps his back in pain. The result of that jarring ride, 2 days in the hospital with a broken vertebrae. In slow motion, you can see how this hill earned its name, the Devil's Staircase. 3 plateaus that launched the motorcycle have raised havoc since 1948. In the 540cc class, 2 riders came into the final hill climb round at Oregonia with a chance at the national title. Defending 540cc champ Greg Williams from Canada is always tough at Oregonia and takes pride in his #1 plate. His championship rival, standings leader Tim Frazier from Lancaster, Ohio. Frazier rides with the #2 plate, which is coincidentally the same number worn by his mentor, the venerable Earl Bovee. On Frazier's first ride, he came up short to Greg Williams by almost 1/100 of a second. However, on his second run, he beat Williams' run and held down first place. Williams then wheeled out his #1 machine and retaliated with a 6.27-second run that not only won the event, but was the fast time of the day in the 540cc class. Afterwards, however, Williams had to relinquish his #1 plate to new champ Frazier. Although he had won the event, he did not catch Frazier in the final point standings of the year. In the 800cc class, the story was youth versus experience. Lying in second in the point standings was our old friend Earl Bovee. Goshen, Indiana's Jeff Yoder, meanwhile, enjoyed a comfortable lead in the standings and was looking for his first ever national title. Earl was not about to hand the title over without a fight, though. The 54-year-old BSA rider bettered Yoder's first run time on his second and final run. It was up to Yoder to respond, and respond he did. He unleashed this run on his Harley-Davidson, which set fast time of the day, won the event, and clinched the #1 plate for the 1989 season. Thanks for joining us tonight. For the best of American motorcycle racing, I'm Bruce Flanders.